Good morning, everyone. It's kind of really distracting. That big bell goes off um, when somebody signs on. So hoping everybody can hear me. And thank you, Allison, for shaking your head. So now I know someone can hear. I make every Monday morning when we have assembly, I make the kids wave and stuff. So I know I'm just not talking to a screen. I much prefer talking to people live than on, I guess I'm one of the few people who is old enough on the screen to remember the old commercial. Is it live or is it Memorex? I prefer much more live. So I want to welcome everybody. I know that on this video today, we have some fifth grade parents too. So I want to welcome you to, as the Beatles said, what a long, strange trip it's been. We're about a month away from hitting a year mark to when this craziness began of being cohorted and being online and all these different things that this pandemic has caused for us. I'll going to tell you where we are and where we're going both this year and next year. But the good news is that there seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel. And that's kind of my message is trying to be to the kids also, that everything that we're doing right now is somewhat temporary. And at their age, especially, it's very temporary. I always like to remind parents we forget some things as we become parents, and I've had two of mine graduate, and that's that a year in our life. I won't reveal my age, but is 1 year is a kind of a percentage, a fairly small percentage of my life. A year in a 12-year-old's life, an 11-year-old's life is a large portion of their life. So the dramatics of how much this affects us when they're older, this will be like it is to us right now, a small blip in our lives that we of course will remember. But we'll go back. So first, I want to just introduce. Hopefully, I'm not going to miss everybody because there are several screens of people. But I want to introduce Michael Orman, who is the director of the arts, and he's on the screen today. And so Michael will be available during this to say anything he'd like, and also to answer any questions about what we're still doing in the arts today and where we're going next year. Michael came in a very, of course, tough situation with some grandiose plans that would have taken us, but those plans haven't gone anywhere. They've just kind of delayed a little bit, and we're still going to be moving forward with them. And it's been great working with Michael this year. Also on the call is Kaylee Whipple, who is a school counselor. She does focus a lot of her time on the middle school, and she's known. She's been doing an incredible job. She's been checking in and calling the kids who are online to make sure they're still doing well as dealing with the normal issues. And along with Miss Hirsch, who is the also director of our school counseling program. But Miss Hirsch is actually getting her vaccine this morning, so she is unavailable to be on our call. But I'm very happy that she and Miss Whipple have also been the leaders of our advisory program in the middle school and have done a great job doing that. So it's great to have that team. Also on the call is Heidi Lee, who is the director of our development office. She's also under that. I taken over our admissions department. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment because I think it's kind of interesting what's happened over the last couple of years in admissions, and it's actually changing quite favorably. And I also see Miss Larson is on. Miss Larson's director of the upper school. She's had 3 children go through our school, so she's very knowledgeable about the middle school, and of course, she's the person who runs the upper school. And so, a lot for those of you who have 8th graders, any questions that you'll have for her, I would urge you to give her a call or an email regarding 9th grade. So let me get started. Where we are now, we could paint a fairly grim picture if we wanted to of being in cohorts. not having an athletic program, not having live shows, limited our student activities, limited our clubs, limited our house activities. But we're doing a pretty good job. And when I say we, that means you as parents, the faculty, and the students. And so it's just so you know, statistically, academically, our kids have not dropped off at all from previous years. I just did this statistic this morning, and you'll be, and those of you who have been in the middle school, not the, for those of you who have fifth graders rising to sixth graders, you know, our teachers are, I can't say enough about the faculty that I have in the middle school, and I'm going to talk about them in a second. But the kids have also really persevered through this. And in second quarter, there's a total of 1,420 grades. And I'm not talking about pass fail, I'm talking about A, B, C, and some of them are electives and anything. A total of those 1,420 grades, 90, just 90, were C plus or below. 1,330 grades are B minus and above. Those kids and the faculty deserve a huge applause for that. Everybody could have put their head between their legs and say, oh God, this virus is so bad, we don't need to do our work, we're not gonna do. No, everybody has persevered, has jumped that hurdle, and are still doing their stuff. And I am so proud of the students, I'm proud of my faculty, and I'm proud of you guys as parents, because Mrs. Goodman used to talk about the stool. I don't know how many of you have ever heard the stool speech, but it takes all three legs. I see Ms. Friedman is actually on from lower school, and she's holding up her three fingers. She's heard it many times, but it takes the students, it takes the faculty, and it takes the parents to support the weight of everything that we do, and supports the weight of a stool. So it's really been through all this, it's been remarkable how well the kids are still doing, and everybody who's involved in that deserves applause. And that's all of you as parents also. The online, parents are saying as well, my kids have to be online. Listen, I'm not questioning, some of you have, the child has health issues, the family has health issues. We have tried our best. Having a wife at home who has been online in the public school system, let me tell you, we have done very, very well. Mr. Gregerson had a line, which I am stealing. And when a parent says, well, it's not the same. And the answer to you is yes, you are correct. It's not the same. If it was the same, we never would have had to take a risk to open the buildings to allow kids to be here. If it was the same. It's not. But those kids, by the way, are doing a great job also. On a whole, statistically, they're doing just as well as our kids here at school. So yes, it's difficult to be in front of a screen all day. I think that there are more parents learning that online schools may not be the wave of the future, as much as people talked about it a few years ago. The other thing that you're hearing a lot about is mental health. And again, because of our advisory program, because of the hard work of Ms. Whipple and Ms. Hirsch, we're not seeing any differences in our student body than we've seen in the past. We still have middle school children who have issues. Those of you who are in fifth grade parents, and those of you who have sixth graders, you are going to be going through, and Mr. Gregerson and I were talking about this the other day, there's no division in the school where both physically and emotionally kids go through their greatest change than in middle school. And I invite any of you, when we're out of the pandemic, to come and just stand around our halls for 5 minutes and look at the sixth graders walking down the hall. And in most cases, they still look like little boys and little girls. And then look to your left and look at our eighth graders, and you're looking at what look like young men and young women. And they also go through that emotionally. There's a lot of talk right now, and I won't get into the politics because I have my own feelings about some of the things that have been said recently about the tragedies that have gone on in the public schools. I was just sent an article, which I have not yet been able to read, regarding that I guess was in the New York Times, regarding mental health, and Clark County School District is in that article. There's a podcast that I just saw that I didn't get to see yet, that's just being advertised right now on Fox about the mental health in the school district. I think that I know our counselors and our teachers and my going to the families too are all doing a great job addressing the needs of their students. So know that it's not something that we're ignoring. We're dealing with it as we always have, and it seems to be responding. But listen, cohorts have their drawbacks. Now, I don't know how many of the fifth grade parents know that a week or two ago, we reverted back to grade level cohorts, which means that at lunch, PE, and snack, kids can be with kids in their grade. They don't have to just be with their one section. We did that. It's because it's such a need for middle school students to have that social dynamic. We keep them in cohorts when we have to. We've been very, very lucky to have weekly testing in our school for our faculty and for our high school athletes. And our level of positive cases is somewhat non-existent. We have had, and I don't want to totally misquote, but I know in middle school, I think we've had 3 positive adults all school year, and 2 of them were the week before school started. So during the school year, we've only had 1 positive staff member. So that's a very, very positive thing. So we're trying to open what we can for the students and have more of those activities available for the students. So again, I'm proud of where we are. So I'm going to close out this year a little bit and tell you that for this year, we're trying to move things forward. So we're still doing some arts shows and things via online opportunities. There's a talent show coming out. Those of you who had the pleasure of seeing last year's talent show got to hear 3+ minutes of my dad jokes. There will be a return of Mr. Siegel's dad jokes on this version. I did tell them one the other day, and I don't think they got it, which is really good. My joke the other day was, they tell me you have to turn your headlights on when it's raining in Sweden. How am I supposed to know when it's raining in Sweden? But I didn't see anybody on the screen laugh either. But that's usually my joke. So we are trying to move things forward. In the past, athletically, we participated mostly in what's called the Red Rock Athletic Conference. We haven't left the Red Rock Athletic Conference. The Red Rock Athletic Conference has somewhat dwindled a little bit. Those are mostly the private schools in our area: Adelson, Dawson, Las Vegas Day School, ICA, Independent Christian Academy. I forgot what it actually stands for. International Christian Academy. So there's been a few of those schools. We're still going to do some participation with those schools. But we've also started last year doing some stuff that's called the NCSSA, which is a much, much bigger league, which encompasses a lot of the private schools and all of the charter schools. And they have announced now that hopefully they will have it's still going to be at least 2 months away, but they're planning on having an April league, which will include tennis, golf, and track and field. We have already started signing up our kids for those activities because our plan is that we will have that. So we're trying to get some semblance. Those of you, unfortunately, for our high school kids, the state has already announced that there's not going to be basketball season and wrestling season. The state has already canceled, but that's on the high school level. We're not a part of the NIAA is it does not govern middle school sports here. It only governs high school sports. So we are trying to, so if things keep on the trajectory that we're on, we'll be able to do that. We had a slight moratorium on blowing instruments and singing, which we're bringing back slowly. And again, Mr. Orman will be glad to answer any questions regarding that, but we're kind of excited that we can get back into those things. We met with grade level cohorting. It's allowing us to have kids meet. So I know Ms. Carlson in theater is going to be able to have some things with grade level instead of, which allows her to do more instead of because trying to do it with 9 separate groups is a lot harder than doing it with 3 grade level groups. This does not mean that kids don't have to wear masks anymore. We're not dropping our guard on the important things. Masks are important. I have threatened, don't come after me, I can't do it without your permission. No, even with your permission, I can't, to put glue on the end of some of the children's noses so the mask doesn't keep sliding down from their nose. We're not changing our distancing policies. We're not changing our cleaning policies. We're still going to do everything we can to keep our children and our faculty safe. But we also, as we can, we want to get back to as close to a normal life as we can. So going forward, we're going to provide as much as we can, and hopefully every week that our testing shows that we don't have any cases, then we can continue to add and add and add to the kids' day and life. That also doesn't mean that we're going to suddenly say, oh, we're going to change right now and not have and stop doing cohorting. Our cohorting's here for this year. It would be too hard to change classes and everything else at this point in the year. So we will be going with our cohorting class, at least academic classes, through this school year. So what does that bring us as we get to next year? It brings us a return to our full athletic program. People keep asking, by the way, well, we're still going to have it online, aren't we? While that hasn't been 100% determined, because it's not just my vote, the head of school will ultimately make the decision, but I would say right now the chances are slim that we will keep that component. It doesn't mean that we haven't learned things that can help students technologically through this. There are benefits. People who study science don't understand how many medical breakthroughs came out of the space program. Well, we've had a lot of breakthroughs through this pandemic that we're taking lessons from, and there's positive things that are going to come out of this. I think that we've learned something in the arts, and I'll give you some examples. So, having every student rotate through an art instead of choosing when they come into 6th grade, I thought was going to not be the greatest of things. I was 100% wrong. And tell you why. It's just yesterday, I had a conversation with an 8th grader who was walking out with his cello or bass, I think it was, because it's a fairly large instrument. And I said, so how do you like it? I go, how long have you been playing? He goes, I just started and I love it. Well, he never tried to play an instrument. Now that he was kind of forced into it, he's loving the idea. I had a 6th grader actually get in his car the other day to his mother, and he yells out, he goes, I didn't think drama could be fun. So while we still want to provide choices for the students, I think Mr. Orman and I have already made the decision that for 6th graders next year, we will still rotate through the electives, because we're finding that they don't have all of those same opportunities going forward. And if you've never had a trumpet in your hand, and you've never tried it, you don't know. If you afraid of drama because you're afraid to stand up in front of your peers, and all of a sudden you try it and you've had that opportunity, wow. So we really still want to provide that opportunity, and it's been an incredible positive thing, something we learned again from the pandemic. 7th and 8th grade, we're still going to expand their elective choices and also give them choice. And Mr. Orman, if he wants to say anything, he's welcome to, but I know he was looking to expand those choices. Mr. Orman?
I'll talk briefly. Good morning, everyone. Just to kind of expand a little bit on that. What we know and what we really have found out, and anecdotally we knew this, that students coming from 5th grade to 6th grade, we want to do kind of ease them into these arts options and eliminate as much of the peer pressure around arts and give them choices so that they have this sampling of the experiences that we offer here at the Meadows. And so we will continue with the quarter of drama, a quarter of music, orchestra, and band they'll get to choose from, a quarter of drama and visual art, and then they'll have the quarter of their life class as well. So, really give them this opportunity to sample things. And then when they move into 7th and 8th grade, that's when they start to have this expanding arts programming that they get to choose, that will even grows more once they get into the upper school. But it has been, from what we have heard, wildly successful and received very well. But again, I would be more than happy to answer any questions now or after this call. If you want to email me, I'm always here to answer any questions or concerns that you might have about the arts program. So thank you.
And on the way, full disclosure, I do want to say the young man who did get into his car and pronounce how much he loved drama, he never thought it could be fun. The mother also said, "That's great, as long as that horn doesn't come back into my house ever again." So
I will also say, I am the director of the arts. I have a 4th grader, and I too, when the
quarter?
The what? I'm sorry.
The recorder?
The recorder comes home and my son's practicing. It grates on me like every other parent. So.
No, but I think it's a great experience for our kids, and very positive and very positively received this year. So we have learned some things. So as, of course, we return to athletics also next year, hopefully we're examining the schedule that we used the year before to see if that it seemed to have been very successful of having all the kids go to sports and get out of school fairly early. By 4 o'clock, we were done with practice a year ago. But again, most importantly, I want to go back to the academics. Cohorting, it's really interesting. A parent and I were exchanging emails very positively, by the way, yesterday, and she has 2 children in middle school, and she was talking about how positive for her older son the cohort actually has been, and the younger daughter is done with her cohort. Well, it's like lower school. You're with the same group of kids for a long time of the day, and by middle school, they want to broaden those horizons. This year, we've done the cohorting not out of a change in policy or belief, out of a change because of pandemic and trying to keep the kids safe in here. We will be going back to normal grouping. In middle school, for those of you who are either new or in 6th grade, because you didn't experience it this year, the kids don't go to the same classes every period with the same group of kids. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to see all 60 kids in a day in their academic classes, but they'll see 30, 40 different kids throughout the day in their programs. And I think that's very important because it gives them some variety. So I think it's important that we return to that. I know the students are excited about that. For those of you coming in from 5th grade, please don't send me the letter. This is who they should be with. The answer is no. We talk about, we place students in sections. I do try to balance off boys and girls more than worry about who's with who. But in the middle school, we're also trying to do a little more leveling, especially in math and foreign language. And those are the 2 classes. If your student never took history, a student comes to our school brand new in 6th or 7th grade, and we have schools that don't spend a lot of time on certain other subjects. They've never taken a history course. They can start 6th grade history and do well because they're starting kind of on a somewhat even level. Some of our kids may have some more factual information or even better study skills, but math and foreign language is predicated on what you've done previously. We don't start foreign language, Spanish, on page 1 because our students have been taking it since kindergarten. We don't start math, on the lowest level of a grade because we have students who are much higher than that. So we start differentiating, and we're going to hopefully be doing more and more of that. We are looking at our staffing in that department and trying to give the students 8th grade this year has been very successful in math because we were able to take the students and divide them up into the appropriate levels. And just so you know, it's not done by opinion. It's done by testing to where they belong. So we use years of ERB. And again, it's going to be a little harder because we have that deficit from a year before. We are planning, at least in middle school, and I'm pretty sure lower schools also, of continuing our ERBs for middle school, except for 8th grade. We have changed this year to begin our 8th graders taking the SSAT, which they did this week. And the reason we're doing that is we want the data. We don't do this data just because we want to be able to hang a plaque on the wall and go, oh, look how good our students are. We are doing those tests because they give us data to look at. And one of the points that the upper school is using it for is as our classes go from 8th to 9th grade, the school increases in size from 60 to somewhat to 75 to 80. So you're adding 15 to 20, and depending on attrition, 25 new students into the upper school. We want to see that those kids are similar to the kids that we're bringing. And again, you'll get that data, and we'll be able, in the upper school and the middle school, both of us, both Ms. Larson's staff and I, will be able to help see where your child is, just as we do with the ERB. We don't just take the ERB and put it in a closet. Math department and the English department, we analyze actually each question to make sure that we're covering the topics appropriately. And when I say appropriately is because we also don't teach to a test. If those of you who have any public school experience, when I was down in Florida, I had a teacher apply for a job and the first question she asked me were, what kind of state tests do we give and everything else? Because they couldn't get books to help kids. They only got books to prep the kids for the tests. And that's not what we do. We teach our curriculum. That preps our kids for the tests. The same thing even with the PSATs and the SATs in high school. Some kids go outside of school and take PSAT prep courses. Our curriculum preps our kids for those tests. So so the bottom line is we use that. We use that to look at our curriculum. We look at that to how we can help kids and appropriate place kids in the levels that will meet their needs. And part of that also we've learned this year. So I've recently done, again, I always, those who don't know me know that I'll put everything that honestly on the table. And one of the needs, we recently did a homework study, which we're still working with. One of the interesting things in the homework study was not the average time that students are doing homework, because to be honest, some teachers looked at that and go, that can't be true. It was the median and the mode numbers. It was the middle number. And when you look at it, saying it's because it's the average and you have some outliers, they raise that average greatly. And the difference in a lot of the grades was about 15 minutes between the middle number, what the middle kid, the 30th kid in the class is spending the time doing, and the average. And it made us realize that in some grades, because of the pandemic this year, we didn't group the way we wanted to group kids, and didn't in math especially. And so kids are, some of them there are a group of kids spending more time than they should be on homework. And what's nice about that is the teachers are now trying to work with that and those students to help them be more efficient, or to learn themselves why it's taking some of them an inordinate amount of time to do some of that work. So we believe that data should drive things that we do, and we're constantly looking at that data to improve ourselves. We hope to return. We are in the process now of, and this is probably the hardest decision for us because it's a decision that we have to make fairly soon, regarding middle school trips. So 7th and 8th graders, 7th graders go to Pally Adventures in Mountain Springs near Big Bear for 3 days in the spring. And the 8th grade had been going to Astro Camp in California, and this year's class was supposed to, we had already booked it, go to Washington, D.C. instead. We hope to return to those trips next year. We're looking at that. I would be thrilled to take this present 7th grade to Washington, D.C. I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C. as my daughter's a student there, and I would love to show them. It's to me, it's kind of somewhat amazing how many people haven't been there. I know the political events that have occurred recently, some people may be leery about their kids, but I'm sure by then things will be back to normal. But again, traveling is still somewhat a question mark. But I think where the pandemic is now, and if the trajectory holds, then we should be in fairly good shape to do that. I did receive one other question prior to this, and I'm going to open up for questions. And the one question was, and something that it was put on my radar and I missed. So I'm regrouping with it. We'll have it have information to sixth grade parents, hopefully by the beginning of next week, the latest. With the pandemic, every year our fifth grade has what they call the talk. We used to call it the birds and the bees talk. Because of the pandemic, the fifth grade, they decided wisely that it wasn't really something that would do well online. So it was bypassed last year with the anticipation that sixth grade would pick it up. We do cover things like that in depth in seventh grade because we have a year of health and wellness, but I also think it's inappropriate, especially for girls. I hate to say this, it's not a sexist statement, it's a biological statement. It's that we wait till then. So we will be doing that. We will be sending sixth grade parents a home a note with the basic topics. And of course, if anybody has concerns, who they should contact. Miss Coach Heller will be handling the girls, and she's one who teaches our health class now with the seventh graders. The boys may become emotionally scarred because I will probably teach it, but the deep dark secret was that I was the health teacher here at the middle school, at the Meadows School for many years. So it's not that I'm not qualified, actually. It's what I did teach for many years. And I'm glad I got a laugh out of somebody. I'd love to open it up for questions. I'm just going to have to, I can't see most of you because most of you have chosen not to reveal your faces. So if you have questions, just wave to me. One of the ones that I bet you is going to come up is eighth graders and the SSAT online. And Miss Lee may be able to answer that. Ms. Lee, do we have any news for the kids who are home and didn't get to take the SSAT? The answer that I will have is ERB. We will probably have an online version for those who are at home.
So there is an SSST online version for home. We are in the process of trying to just get some codes so that the members of the eighth grade class that are remote will have those codes, and we will get them to you probably in the next week. And so either myself or Mr. Goubert will be in touch with those families with those codes individually.
Any other questions? Stacy?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I know I had emailed you about that, and that wasn't I had a sixth grade, or actually more of an eighth grade question too. But thanks for whenever you get the information. We just had him doing some practice ones basically on Monday anyway. So he could have the example of the online. I understand it's the first year and everything and stuff's crazy. So, but my other question was on middle school conferences. I don't know if I missed something or wanted to know kind of what the situation, especially for the Zoom kids.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Stacy. I left that off my list, so I appreciate it. So over the next few weeks, every middle school parent in every academic class will be receiving a progress report. For those who don't know, again, coming from elementary school, middle school conferences have been optional, and they've been, of course, in person, and they're scheduled. It's a little different because in lower school, you have one teacher. In middle school, you have 5, 6, 7, 8. We could not figure out, it would have been a nightmare. It's a nightmare to try to schedule virtual conferences with 6, 7, 8 teachers, and for the teacher schedule with that many parents virtually, because some of them have up to 50, 60 conferences. So so I will be sending actually home a letter this week. That doesn't mean that we don't want you to have a conversation with the parent, with the teacher. You get these progress reports, you may have concerns already. We're going to provide you again a reminder, the link for every teacher and their email address. Our teachers are willing to make conferences with anybody. We're not going to stop school this year to have formal conferences, or because again, they're optional. But I also know as a parent you still want feedback. And unfortunately, sometimes the kids who don't get the feedback are the kids who are just doing their business. They may not be, a lot of times the kids who are great straight A students are getting the wonderful accolades. The kids who are struggling are getting comments, and the kids in the middle who are just doing their job don't get enough. So that's why I've asked every teacher to write a progress report over the next few weeks. And then you have any concerns of those, I will be sending a letter home says you need to initiate. And by the way, I've asked teachers to initiate if they need to also, not just through a progress report, but through a conference, any discussion you want to have about your child. So please don't hesitate to set those up with your child, with your teacher, because if the progress report isn't clear, and yes, some progress reports are going to be very, very simple. But again, you know what? As a parent, if your child's doing their stuff, it's still nice to hear. If they're not doing their stuff, it's not great to hear, but you want to know. So, that's what's going to happen. And thank you, Stacy, for bringing that up, because I did want to bring that up and left it off my list.
Okay, then I was wondering if we were waiting for a certain time to set up those meetings, or if there was that week coming up. So otherwise, I'll just contact anybody I need to.
Correct.
Sure. Okay.
If you have the email addresses ready, otherwise I'll make sure there's a list going out to everybody with the letter. And feel free, anybody here, to contact that teacher and schedule a Zoom conference with the parents. We are still doing all those conferences via Zoom. But again, and to be honest, because I always am, more than 50% of the conferences are the straight A students. And not that I don't want you to hear it from your teachers, but again, you can imagine trying to schedule conferences. And the other thing is, when we're live, Miss Baker and Miss Smith walk around the halls, keeping the conferences moving. Somebody signs on a minute late, tries to sign on 5 minutes early, and they're already in conferences. It's just, right now, it's just a situation that would be almost untenable with, because some of our teachers have up to 80 students. So you can imagine if just 50% want. Ms. Lally, do you have a question? I cannot hear you. Still can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you. You want to? Got it. Now I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Not that I don't do this daily. I have a question about the shadowing that's not happening this year. Is there anything in place for the fifth graders to know anything about middle school a little bit more?
Yes, thank you. Well, for those of you who had the experience of having your children going through that shadow process, the most important thing to them was going to the corral. So I have talked to Miss Kennedy, and we are going to have them each scheduled, and she and I actually meeting at 2:00 today to set that schedule up. We will be meeting, so they will have a day to come to the corral, and then after lunch, they always meet with me. So at least those parts we will be doing. So I will be sitting down with the whole fifth grade, section by section, keeping them in their cohorts, so they can have lunch with me and they can get to go to the corral, because again, that is their favorite thing. In fact, usually when I start my talk after they've spend the whole day with us, or half a day with us, I tell them, what's your favorite part? And you can't say it was the corral, because that's always what they like the most. But I will be so we will be doing that. And I may try to bring in 1 or 2 students with me if it's safe, if we feel it's a safe situation. Ms. Kennedy and I are going to discuss that today to also answer any questions from a student's perspective. So yes, Ms. Lally, thank you for asking that. So yes, they will be doing that, and that will be fairly soon, by sometime in February, early February.
Perfect. Thank you.
More questions? I couldn't have answered everything, or you just think it's Ms. Lally, do you have another question? You're just waving. Oh, she's going. Okay. Any other questions? Stacy?
I was wondering, could you give us an update on where the middle school teachers are with their vaccines and how that's progressing?
I can tell you globally, because legally, that's private health information. So I can't, but I do know that the vast majority, I'm going to say I counted over the weekend, it was 90%, and I know that 2 more went yesterday, have received their first vaccine. I won't and can't tell you who, of course. We're not even sure that I'm allowed to ask them. But I think that most teachers have chosen to do that. And it's important. And one of the reasons why Mr. Gregerson actually wants to know, but again, we're going through our legal processes, is because it does change the dynamic of how much, first of all, we want to spend continuing to test. But again, it's still a short-term question because as somebody who I'm allowed to say about myself, who has received the first vaccine, I'm very, very worried that they're not going to give us the information to get the second vaccine, but also know that science is saying it's still a couple of weeks after that second vaccine that the immunity gets to where it needs to be. It doesn't mean that we're changing anything immediately on that, but I would hope by spring break that most, if not all, of the middle school faculty who choose to are at full immunity. And you know that as a lawyer. Any other questions?
I'm not the lawyer. I just work for the lawyer.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Teachers have been available to receive it. I guess that was
yes.
You guys are getting access.
Yes, we were very fortunate. Mr. Gregerson has been communicating a lot with other private schools, with the private school liaison to the state, and I also, he sent a letter home to I know probably affects lower school more than it did middle school. Don't be surprised if your teacher was missing for several hours in the last couple of weeks, because we were all hands on deck. Mr. Orman was covering classes. Mr. Gregerson covered an elementary school class because we wanted to make sure any teacher who, we didn't want teachers to say, I can't get away to get the shot if that's the only time they could get it. So it was, believe me, it was a priority for us. So yeah, we've been very fortunate to most of us to be able to get the access. It's not been easy. It's a lot of hours. Ms. Schnell, I see you have a hand up.
Yes, I was just wondering, remind me when contracts come out to sign up for school next year. Is that February?
That's a Ms. Lee question. She can give you the exact date.
February 8th was when re-enrollment contracts will go out, and then they will be due back on the 19th of February.
Okay, great. And then is there any sort of application process if we're moving up to middle school from lower school, or is it just kind of standard process?
Standard process.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everybody who finishes the year in good standard, if you have not had a conversation with Miss Kennedy from 5th to 6th grade, or with me from 8th to 9th grade, or from any grade really in middle school, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about as far as I know. Again, I can't speak for Miss Kennedy, but I'm sure she has done that. And I know that I've spoken to anybody in middle school who we have any concerns about. Otherwise, our schools always had the policy that you go from grade to grade as long as you're in good standing with the school. I do want to tell you, and this isn't, I want to make sure nobody thinks it's kind of a negative threat or anything. And Miss Lee can speak to this if she wants to also, is we're getting back to almost what I see from the early days of the Meadows School. And again, I've been here, this is my 22nd or 23rd year, I forget which one now, but I started 32, 33 years ago. And in the early years, we had sometimes we had 2 sections per grade, but we had waiting lists. We're seeing a crazy number. I see Miss Lee is shaking her head, of inquiries, both from in town, where of course, there's been, it's been well documented some of the struggles of the public situation, but because one of the, again, things I think the pandemic taught people was that you can work from other places. And there are some states, I'm not trying to insult California, but especially California, that we are having a large number of inquiries because of their tax structure and their economy and things there. So we are in an incredibly good situation. And I don't know if Ms. Lee wants to, or if she's mad at me for even bringing this up. But I just want you to know that, we're just in a very, very positive situation right now with very, very high quality students looking at our school. And so if anything, so I didn't want anybody to take it as a negative. And I have not changed my standard for who should be enrolled in our school. So it's not like, gee, let's get rid of this kid because we have somebody else ready. No, you've invested in your child in our school. We've invested in your child. We want them to be here. So, but it's very, very positive what we're seeing for our school, because I think it's positive for the town that we're having those people who have the interest in our type of school coming. And to be honest, I think Ms. Lee, if she wants to, she doesn't have to. She's even indicated there are several people who, if they can't get into the Meadows school, won't move because of the options. Would that be true, Ms. Lee?
Absolutely. We've done tours, Saturday tours for inquiring families, and some of our families who are looking at having their siblings apply for many, many months now. And Mr. Siegel is absolutely correct. We have toured a lot of people from California, but people from Connecticut, Chicago, New York, that now their jobs are 100% remote and want to move to Las Vegas for the weather and the quality of life. And their main reason for moving, because their parents, is they want to get their kids into the best school. And if their kids don't get into Meadows, then they may look at Phoenix or some other markets. But it's been an interesting year as far as talking to some of our applicant families from out of town. But we're seeing amazing families and a lot of growth, even just locally, with families who are interested in us. So it's all positive news, and it's across the board, pre-K through all the way through upper school. So.
Yeah, and actually, one of the things that I was just, and not that I'm trying to brag, but just I'm bragging because my teachers in the middle school, was I noticed that because we don't really take a lot of new students into middle school. We have a few that don't come from 5th to 6th grade, usually 4 to 5. We don't lose very many kids through the middle school years. So, we usually have somewhere between 6 to 10 new families tops in middle school. And I noticed that 2 of my new 7th grade students both have now siblings that applied to lower school, and they're coming from another private school. So I guess we are doing something right even through this pandemic. So, and I guess that's where I want to end, at least, so I'll answer any more questions. But I'm proud of my students. I'm proud of the work that you guys are doing at home, because I know this isn't easy for parents. But I can't tell you how proud I am of my faculty. This is not normal. The work that they have to do is not been doubled. It's exponential, and they're not complaining. This week is a great example. This is, by the way, first semester with the pandemic and having the kids being somewhat sequestered about where they can eat. We only had one day the entire first semester where we had to eat indoors. This week, we're on day 3 where we've had to eat indoors. So we have, one in the comment, we gave kids the hallways. And the teachers just know that we have more kids to supervise in places. So they're just showing up to help supervise with the extra work that they're doing, with the teachers going to get vaccines. Other teachers are saying, hey, I'll help, I'll do it. Mr. Slominski has helped everybody with anything they needed with their online courses and stuff. So while, again, I can't say it's been perfect, it's been tough. It's been, for me, I feel like it's been a nonstop year since last March. There wasn't much of a summer for us, but it looks like things will get back more normal for the kids. I see my friends who have summer camps back east are taking enrollments where they had to close last summer. So I'm very excited that we're going to be hopefully moving forward, and the kids' attitudes have been much better than I could have expected. In fact, probably maybe better than normal. I don't know. Maybe we need a little bit of this. No, I was kidding. We definitely don't need this again. Something like this again. So, any other questions? Again, I can't see. So please unmute and ask.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate the questions.
I just had 2 questions. One, I know that this year they went over the 60 students. And so I was wondering if the plan for 6th grade and continuing, if it was capped at 60 or if that was going to continue to increase. And second, on if you were planning on going back to lockers or letting them continue to carry to the classroom.
So I can answer both those questions pretty easily. First of all, the the board, we didn't know when the pandemic hit what would happen to the school. So that's why, and we had a lot of very qualified candidates. So the board made the decision to allow us to go to 63. The board has decided that the answer is no, that the middle school, we're not going to balance, we're not going to add stuff on top of the kids or the teachers. So no, we're not going to. That does not mean that if 3 kids don't leave 6th grade, we're going to ask anybody to leave. No, we will continue those numbers. 8th grade had 61. We will continue those numbers going forward. But if 2 kids leave in 6th grade, we won't replace them until we get below 60. So the answer to the question is we'll go back to 60. Lockers are a much more interesting question. I can't really answer that one totally now. It's actually a discussion we're having amongst the faculty. It's not a negative. The lockers have a purpose, and we're going to see. But we've also found that it kind of worked this year, and we're almost thinking about whether or not we want to convert that to more student area, to take the lockers and replace them with benches and areas for the kids to sit and socialize and have small group stuff. So I'm being honest with you, is we haven't made that decision yet. The faculty is discussing it. It's really odd that it's worked as well as we thought with the textbook. And there would be lockers for their athletic stuff, and that's actually been the hardest thing, going back to full dress and having them have sneakers, the grades that have PE and full dress that day. Next year, I don't want to say which day yet, but one of the nice things with Miss Kennedy, Miss Carlson, Miss Kennedy, Miss Larson, and I meet just us. Well, we allow Mr. Orman to come to those meetings too. But we meet ourselves every week now. We've determined a lot of things. And I think the school, some of the nice things you're going to hear is that we're going to be solidifying the uniform pretty much pre-K through 12. Well, K through 12. I know pre-K has some little different things. So there's not going to be a lot of difference between a 1st grade uniform and a 9th grade or 10th grade uniform. There's just slight differences. We're actually also planning to make dress day the same day for the entire school. So we're really working. One of the things that we're working on very hard this year, and Ms. Kennedy's been a great partner, is what we're calling de-siloing the school. There's kind of been a lower school, middle school, and upper school, beginning school, lower, middle. We're trying to put it all together. And Mr. Orman is even doing that within the arts by having staff work in different divisions. And having arts reach out more from the professional art staff into the lower school. And so that's happening. And we're actually, one of our big goals this summer, I'm not going to promise it'll get completed, is actually trying to come up with one handbook instead of having many different sections. Where we can have pretty much come up. Again, there's things that are going to be unique to upper school because we don't have too many 3rd graders driving. But there are things that right now are addressed on 3 different ways in 3 different divisions, and there's not a need to, and we can sit down and compromise, the 3 of us and 4 of us, and come up with things. So I'm very excited about that and how that's moving the school forward. Stacy, any more questions? I'm just teasing you. I hope you know that. Anybody else, please just unmute and yell because I can't see everybody. Going once, going twice. Again, I just want to thank everybody through the pandemic. You guys have been thoughtful. You guys have been understanding. I would love to say we're perfect. We're not perfect without a pandemic. So with the pandemic, I think we're doing a great job. But we still have stuff that, we're not giving up. We're going to still improve things this year, and we're going to make next year a great year. So welcome to our 5th grade parents. I can't wait to get to know all of you. Those who know me, one of the last things is I love, one of the benefits, I don't know if I will continue it next year because I'll probably be coaching, but one of the benefits of the pandemic is being out of carpool. I've talked to more parents this year in a positive, just casual way than I did in the last 2 or 3 years, because I see many parents every day standing out there in carpool. And I'm very proud that only twice have parents driven up on the sidewalk to try to run me over. So that's even better. So have a great day. Have a great week. And please don't hesitate to email me Eighth grade parents, you have questions, don't hesitate to email Ms. Larson. She'll be glad to answer any questions, and I look forward again to getting to know the fifth grade parents. Have a great day.